When you think of major international trade hubs, massive coastal seaports like Los Angeles or bustling airports like Chicago O'Hare might come to mind. But there's a place that beats them all, a border town in Texas that most Americans couldn't point to on a map. This is Laredo, Texas, now officially the busiest port in the world. Over 10,000 trucks rumbling across international bridges every single day, billions of dollars in goods flowing north and south. A small city handling more international commerce than New York, Miami, or Seattle. In 2023, for the first time in its history, the Port of Laredo handled over $300 billion in trade, more than any other port in America. But how exactly did this happen? How did a modest border city transform into the most important trade gateway in the United States? Let me explain. In 2024, the Port of Laredo processed $339 billion in total trade. That's an increase of nearly 6% from the previous year. To put that in perspective, Laredo handled $17 billion more than Chicago O'Hare Airport and beat the Port of Los Angeles by over $20 billion. We're talking about trade volumes that dwarf those of massive coastal cities with millions of residents. Breaking it down further, exports through Laredo totaled $128 billion, while imports were valued at nearly $211 billion. That creates a trade deficit of about $82.5 billion. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It simply reflects the massive volume of goods that American consumers and businesses are bringing in through this crucial gateway. But what makes Laredo so special? Why this particular spot on the US-Mexico border? The answer lies in Laredo's unique geographic positioning and the infrastructure that's been built around it. Laredo sits directly across from Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, forming what locals call Los Dos Laredos, the two Laredos. Together, they create a binational trade corridor that connects the industrial heartland of Mexico with the vast consumer market of the United States. This is the shortest route between Mexico's industrial powerhouse cities like Monterrey and the American Interstate Highway System. But it's in the World Trade Bridge in Laredo where the action happens. If you stood there right now, you'd see semi-trucks lining up bumper to bumper across 8 lanes, stretching all the way across to Rio Grande. The air fills with diesel fumes as hundreds of trucks rumble through, waiting to be processed before delivering their cargo to trucking terminals just a few miles down the road. The bridge is the main artery for North American trade, pumping goods like avocados, car parts, and John Deere tractors through Interstate Highway 35, which begins at Mile 1 in Laredo and stretches all the way to Minnesota. From there, goods fan out across the continental United States on a network of highways, reaching every state and millions of consumers. But that's only the beginning of the story. Laredo's dominance is also tied directly to Mexico's rise as a manufacturing powerhouse. In 2023, Mexico surpassed China as America's top trading partner for the first time in decades. This shift didn't happen overnight. It's been years in the making, accelerated by tensions between the United States and China, and supercharged by the pandemic's disruption of global supply chains. As Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics, explained, we're going to import less from China going forward. We're decoupling. American companies increasingly seek more reliable and closer supply chains, and Mexico has positioned itself as the ideal alternative to Asian manufacturing within Laredo, standing at the gateway of this massive shift, ready to handle the increased flow of goods. And now, the concentration of trade through Laredo isn't just large, it's almost exclusively with a single partner. Would you believe nearly 99% of all trade passing through the port is with Mexico? In 2024 alone, trade with Mexico through Laredo totaled over $330 billion, jumping 5.9% from the previous year. For some perspective on this dominance, consider that China, the second largest trading partner through Laredo, accounted for a mere $1.83 billion. That's not even 1% of Mexico's total. So, what exactly is moving across these bridges in such massive quantities? Dig into the data, and an unmistakable pattern jumps out. The automotive industry rules Laredo's trade lines, components. On the export side, motor vehicle parts lead the way, followed by gasoline and fuels, electric storage batteries, diesel engines, and passenger vehicles. Flip to the import ledger, and you'll find motor vehicle parts again at the top. Then passenger vehicles, computers, commercial vehicles, and tractors. Think of this as the heartbeat of North America's integrated manufacturing ecosystem. Each vehicle might have parts that cross the border 3, 4, even 5 times during production. Components manufactured in Michigan or Tennessee travel south to Mexico for assembly, and then return north as finished vehicles bound for American showrooms. This isn't just a trade, it's a sophisticated choreography of production that plays out thousands of times a day on Laredo's bridges, creating jobs and value on both sides of the border. Now, for the million-dollar question, how does a small border city handle 10,000 trucks crossing every single day? Infrastructure becomes the name of the game in Laredo, where nearly a third of all local jobs revolve around trades, transportation, and utilities. Those thousands of trucks, a number that keeps climbing year after year, puts enormous pressure on roads, bridges, and custom facilities. Gene Lindgren has had a front-row seat to this transformation as president and CEO of Laredo Economic Development Corporation. He traces the roots back to trade agreements, particularly the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement that replaced NAFTA. It has completely changed the landscape of manufacturing in North America, he says. But the real game changer? The pandemic supply chain chaos. Lindgren points to a dramatic shift. Post-pandemic, it is nearshoring, ally-shoring, reshoring, all of the above. The ripple effects have been extraordinary for Laredo. Companies burned by distant supply chains are scrambling to bring production closer to the United States, and Laredo sits right at the crossroads of this massive realignment. Lindgren calls it the industrial boom in Monterrey, Saltillo, and Torreon in northern Mexico, and even southern Mexico, industrial powerhouses whose products flow through Laredo on their journey to American consumers. And you know what? Both sides win big in this agreement. Studies reveal that 40% of raw materials used in Mexican maquiladora plants, or export assembly factories, actually come from the United States. In Lindgren's words, it helps North America, it helps Mexico, and it helps the United States, and it even helps Canada. Picture this constant flow: raw materials heading south, finished products coming north, creating prosperity that crosses borders. No wonder Laredo Mayor Dr. Victor Trevino keeps his phone lines open with his counterparts in the Mexican states of Tamaulipas and Nuevo Leon. The stakes couldn't be higher. As he puts it, our relationships with our Mexican counterparts are even more vital to sustaining the continuous prosperity on both sides of the border. This isn't just business, it's relationship building that shapes the economic destiny of the entire region. So, faced with skyrocketing trade volumes, Laredo had to get creative. Enter the fast lanes at the World Trade Bridge, a brilliant innovation unveiled in early 2023. These 4 special lanes for pre-screened commercial carriers cost $10.3 million, funded entirely through private donations to the city. The payoff? Dramatic improvements in crossing times. Just how dramatic? Alberto Flores, who directs the Port of Laredo for US Customs and Border Protection, lays out the numbers. It takes on average between 30 to 45 seconds per truck to get processed. They're moving a lot faster because they don't have to queue into the rest of the cargo. Multiply those time savings by thousands of trucks daily, and you're talking about major economic impact. The infrastructure revolution doesn't stop at the bridges. Zoom out to see a $2.3 billion investment in roads and highways planned for the Laredo area over the next decade, partially bankrolled by the bipartisan infrastructure law. That's 5 times the investment from 10 years ago, a massive vote of confidence in Laredo's economic future, despite the city's modest population growth. And that's because sometimes the smallest changes deliver outsized results. Take Mines Road, the crucial artery connecting the bridge to trucking terminals. The addition of just 1 lane transformed traffic patterns overnight. Jerry Maldonado from Warren Transport was initially skeptical about how much difference a single lane can make. But after the implementation, he was stunned to see crossing times slashed by more than half at that intersection. For the logistics industry, those minutes shaved off transit times directly translate to dollars. Not every bet pays off immediately, though. The Laredo-Columbia Solidarity International Bridge was once mockingly called the bridge to nowhere after poor planning and coordination with Mexico left it severely underused. Fast forward several decades, and vindication has arrived. This second commercial bridge is finally hitting its stride. Flores says that they're already pushing between 2,600 and 2,800 trucks at Colombia daily, reaching about 65 to 70% capacity. And something even bigger looms on the horizon. A new Mexican highway called La Gloria will soon create a direct pipeline between the Colombia Bridge and the industrial powerhouse of Monterrey, pumping even more traffic through this once ridiculed crossing. The result? Well, this expanding network could revolutionize the electric vehicle industry supply chain because everything is perfectly positioned. The multi-billion-dollar Tesla manufacturing plant under construction in Monterrey has a straight shot to the US. From Monterrey, shipments can cross at Colombia, then hop onto State Highway 255, which connects directly to I-35, creating a seamless pipeline straight to Austin. The future of North American auto manufacturing is literally being paved through Laredo right now. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. As companies continue fleeing from far-flung supply chains in Asia, Laredo isn't just holding its crown as the world's busiest land port, it's building an assailable lead, with $339 billion in trade already flowing through its bridges, and billions more in infrastructure investments on the way. No other border crossing comes close to matching its volume or momentum. What we're witnessing is a realignment of North American trade with Laredo as its indisputable center of gravity. Because here's the truth, nearly half of everything Mexico sends to the US passes through Laredo. That phone in your pocket, that car in your garage, even those avocados in your kitchen, there's a good chance they all cross that border. Did you know that? Like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with the news.